So, guys, very serious question. Have you ever been sitting down or at work or something like that and you just feel like taking your shoes off? Like you just feel like taking your shoes off and just sitting there in your bare feet? Because I have slip-ons right now and I just kind of just take them off. I don't know. Something feels good about just taking your shoes off sometimes, putting them on like a cold tile floor. I don't know. Maybe I'm weird. Who cares? But speaking of weird, let's talk about this comic book here. This is a Marvel Legacy run. It's got the Marvel Legacy Total Dynamic new banner. And, it looks like the cheesiest thing you ever seen. I would have changed this a little bit, make it a little bit bigger, have this be a little bit cooler. I don't like the way they draw this Venom head on here. I just don't like that. It don't look right. It's weird. Just draw it like that, or put the classic Venom head on there. But, so we got this cover here, and obviously this is pretty much like The Last Hunt. This is like The Last Hunt, but with Venom, because they've never actually met, even though they're both part of Spider-Man's Rogue Gallery. So we got that moon right there. It looks like that was probably done with one of those utensils like EVS uses. What I noticed about Venom here is, if you'll notice, he's like one solid piece. You know what I mean? Like there's not much sticking out. Like you have these little bits on Kraven that you had to kind of do a little bit of coloring in, but he looks like one solid. It looks like you could just get him with like a 3D model and just move him around. So that may have been the way they done him. But anyway, he still looks good. I like the way they draw him. But when I saw this, I was like, something's weird about his body. So this is continuing another storyline that they have. Venom, if you haven't been reading, last issue Venom was trapped under a collapse in the sewers. And so let's talk about this for a second. This is another book coming out. They got like this file here. It says, shortly after the death of Agent Black Widow, at the hands of a war criminal, the bodies of several of her rival operatives were found. Forensic evidence indicates that these killings were performed by a highly trained individual, possibly with ties to Hydra. Former agent Hawkeye and Winter Soldier, both ex-lovers of Agent Black Widow, have begun an independent investigation into the matter. So, okay, yeah. So we got this Hawkeye and Winter Soldier book, Tales of Suspense. They're coming back with that. Now, look how little they did Tales of Suspense, though. They really want to tell you who's in the book. That Red Ledger Part 1. She's got red in her ledger. You remember the movie, guys? You remember the movie? So that's what they're going to kind of do that on. Looks pretty cool, though. I'm kind of interested to see how it's going to be. But anyway, so we start out the story here. And basically, Kraven has pushed all these rats into the sewers because he knows these dinosaur people that Venom's been taking care of love rats, because that's all they have to eat down there. So he runs them all into the sewer there, and they all go running after him. They're like, oh, yeah, food, we eat. And the smart one here, she says, this is, of course it has to be a woman one, and she's smart all of a sudden, and they're saying like one word stuff, and she's like writing a lecture. Says, this is not right. Everyone leaving shelter chasing these things. Where did they come from? And he's like, why are you asking about where they come from? Look, we got all this stuff to eat. And there's where Kraven comes in. Kraven's like, ha, you didn't expect that, did you? Shink. She's like, no, not Dave. And so then she attacks him. He smacks her and then shoots her with a net gun and traps her. And this is where you can kind of see the dynamic between Kraven and these hired individuals, because he said, that's enough. You were instructed to capture these creatures, not execute them. He goes, you leave the hunting to me and concern yourself with establishing a perimeter. And then he keeps bossing them around, and one of the guys says, wait, do we work for him? He says, technically he works for us. So he walks off. The dinosaur is able to break out of her trap there, and she runs after him. And he said, should we go after him? He says, go into the tunnels to hunt a dinosaur after you. Even though technically that's what they, came to do. But you can kind of tell the disdain that they have for Kraven. They really don't care too much for him. You can kind of tell by that. So Venom's still stuck under there. He's extremely hurt from being attacked by a Shriek, and he's basically like holding this up with his body. It's a really awkward position to put somebody, but he's basically holding it up to keep it from crushing him. And so he's talking about how he feels like he's drowning. You know, he's trying to hold his head up above water. He's hurt. The Venom's hurt. He doesn't really know what's going on. But basically, he is like holding this whole building up and the concrete underneath. So Venom is actually really strong even when he's in a weakened state. There comes Tana. She shows up and says, "Hey, Savior, Savior." And he attacks her at a defense. The symbiote is attacking on its own. And grabs a hold of her, and she says, "Please, please." And then the Venom's like, it's funny because he's like, "Tana, the one they call Tana," and he goes, "Oh, Tana's a friend. Release her, release her." It's funny because it's like, wait, this guy's like trying to get in here. Is this okay? So she tells him, you know, that we really need your help. Kraven's attacking everybody. He says, "Look, I can't escape without getting innocent blood on our hands, but we can last more than a few more hours before we lose our minds." He goes, "We need help, allies. That nose of yours better be good for more than sniffing me out." So basically, she actually goes and gets the Molites and some of the other creatures underneath there and gets them all to pitch in to save him. And it's funny because he gives this long dialogue about how this is an epic thing to do, like the Molites are saving him and all this kind of stuff. And he says, and that's complete bullcrap. He says, but it's the kind of bullcrap that makes a good story. And it's those things, those kind of stories that dinosaurs make legends out of. So it's pretty funny. It's like he could give a crap as long as he's safe, but he knows that the dinosaurs are going to talk about this for a long time to come. So he comes out. He's at his strength again. He says, "Kraven, where is he?" And he says, "I'll take you to." He says, "No." Grabs her. Says, "You tell us. You can't come with us. Too dangerous. And I need you to do something else for us. Do you remember where we live?" So then we cut to this court case, and it totally throws the dynamic off of the story. But Lee Price, the guy who had Venom for like 3 whole issues, is on. He's being charged with crimes that he committed while he was Venom. And they're talking about the whole defense of it was mind control, the Venom symbiote was controlling him. And then he says, the evidence is before you, Your Honor. Lee Price is accused of being that super criminal Venom, yet he sits behind bars while Venom is still active and making headlines. We have a new mayor who obviously wants to this creature brought to justice. The courts must always remain impartial, of course, but one must wonder how it will be taken by this will be taken by the people of the city, by this new administration, by a guy with no criminal record. So they're just going to let him go. And it wouldn't really make sense. Like, he still did commit the crimes. Even though the Venom symbiote was part of him, he still committed crimes. So I didn't really understand that. So Kraven's still attacking him. But now Venom's here. Venom is now on the attack. He's slashing him, cutting him. He says all he feels at this point is red ruin. And then that's where Shriek shows up. Attacks him. Shriek, see if you can kill him this time without bringing the entire chamber down. Because she caused the collapse last time. So there's Eddie. He's standing his ground. He's trying his best to attack. He says, we can't feel anything except rage. He's talking about how he's got broken bones. His eardrums are busted, but he's so mad that he won't be stopped. So he grabs her. Kraven tries to attack him, and he uses her basically as a projectile and hits Kraven right over the head with her. So at that point, he's fixing to eat him. And then that's where the dinosaur steps in and says, medicine, medicine. And he says, what did you do to me? He says, I gave you your medicine. And that's the medicine that helps the symbiote stay together so that it doesn't lose its mind and go crazy. Because the symbiote is slowly deteriorating. As it's attached to Eddie, they're a better match, but it's doing something to the symbiote that's hurting it. So that's when all the soldiers show up. It says, why do you want to kill us? It says, we don't want to kill you. We want you to stop eating college kids. And that was a reference to The Land Before Crime Part 1 that was a while back. It says, "We have never hurt any person, never been to the surface since our change. This is the monster, a man who hurts and kills us for sport. Shoot him, take him away." You know they wouldn't listen to that. They'd be like, just shoot all the dinosaurs. It says, "And if you are on his side, take him away. There is only one of him and many of us." And he says, "Hey, I recognize that black and white chick. She's a fugitive." He says, "What the heck?" He says, "I never did like that guy." He says, "That guy too, everyone's looking for him." And that's where she says, "You're not taking him." And this threw me off right here because this is supposed to be her eyes reflecting in his mask, but you can't tell that. It looks just like he has a messed up face. And he says, "Well, we'll just go. We'll take Kraven." And so they left, took them in. He says, "But this isn't over. People know you're down here. The police will come back. You can't help them forever." He says, "The Moloids have been down here for years and no one's found them, so maybe we'll do it too." And she says, "You'll always have a place here." He says, "No, thank you. That won't be necessary." Ooh, that's a cool shot. So then we cut back to Lee Price, and they're just letting Lee Price out of jail. What does that say? Bad mother? That's funny. So then he's leaving, and he says, "I'm not the one who has to worry about trouble." So this is to be continued leading into Venom Incorporated, which is a new book written by Dan Slott. And so basically this is setting up for Lee Price to be the villain. So that's why they did that whole thing a couple of issues back where it's like 3 issues where he was Venom. He's going to become some kind of new symbiote villain, and they're going to have to fight him. So I also heard that they're going to bring back Flash Thompson as anti-Agent Venom, or Agent Anti-Venom. And I'm really excited to see that because I loved him as Venom. And so I'm excited to see all this happen. I just kind of wish there would have been a little bit more fighting. It was a pretty good book, but like the big fight scene that they had was basically him punching somebody and then somebody falling down. That was the most that was going on. I kind of wish there had been a little bit more action. Like you had these huge scenes where he's drawn back ready to fight, but then it stops and there's not really anything. I think it was probably those 3 or 4 pages where they're in the courtroom that just kind of took too long and kind of threw the book off a little bit. They probably shouldn't have done that. They probably could have saved a little bit more room to do other things if they hadn't have done that. But other than that, it's a pretty good book. Venom's been pretty solid every issue. There's a couple other advertisements in here I was going to talk about. So you got The Iceman Cometh, which is like the worst name for a book ever considering he's gay. And then you've got the new Generation X, which no one is reading. You got Weapon X coming out where they're all dressed like that. I can't remember his name, Nuke or something like that. And then you got this right here. I've already ordered this. It should be coming in on December 20th. But make sure you order this because this guy took a lot of effort and research in writing this book. So definitely get it. It's X-Men Grand Design. There's S.H.I.E.L.D. coming back. That's going to be exciting. What do you guys think? Did you like this book? Did you not like this book? How do you think it compares to the regular Venom? I think it's at least it's a pretty good book if you like Venom. It'll get you by. I could probably give it like an 8 out of 10 or something. But all right, guys, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, tell me what you think about the video. And that's all I got. I've got a Patreon. I've got a Teespring account. So anything that you can do to help is much appreciated. All right, guys, talk to you later. Bye.